All right. Hello. Megan Thompson here with Megan Thompson Coaching. And I thought I'd have a little fun with you guys today to talk all about what it's like to learn that my dog is a different breed than I thought he was for the last 6 years, and how that might pertain to what it's like to finally discover that your child is highly sensitive. So I want to cover this, right? So here at MTC, if this is your first meeting of me listening to me on this particular episode, we help parents of highly sensitive kids and teens eliminate the daily meltdown cycle and the daily shutdown refusal cycle for teens. So we work with teens and their parents here at MTC. And so what that means is that kids are hitting, kicking, biting, throwing things, thinking that life would be better off without them. We help parents break out of that cycle and do that very rapidly. And so today, usually what we talk about when I post a show here is supporting you in breaking out of that pattern and identifying where you might be stuck and what you need to focus on to get out of it. Today we're gonna have a little fun, though. What I do is always fun for me, but here I thought we would be a little just kind of take a look into understanding more about the reactions that you might be having if your child's highly sensitive, and I couldn't help but think of that because I love what I do. And so I always think about the work that I do with parents of sensitive kids. And today we got the DNA results back from my dogs, from the vet. And so he's 6. He's a rescue. We got him as a puppy. And he's got black fluffy hair. And he's got this gorgeous little tuxedo chest. I'm serious, it's like a V on his chest. It's adorable. And then he's got a Michael Jackson paw. So this dog is about 50-ish pounds if we're doing our job right. That's his healthy weight around there. And he's a ball of energy. And so we've always thought that he was part golden retriever and part border collie, because he's also obsessed with balls, like just hunts. Like, you cannot put a ball down for this dog in front of him, because he won't quit. He just will not quit. And he's got some herding capabilities, wants to make sure that he's around his people, and just is a love bug too. So he's definitely part of the family. He's our first child. We have a 5-year-old human child as well. And so yeah, his name is Porter, and he's amazing. And all these years, I saw his litter mates, his brothers. It was a whole litter of just boys, if I remember correctly. And 2 of them looked like golden retriever puppies. So growing up, I had a yellow lab. Her name was Bailey, and I've seen a golden retriever puppy before, so I could tell the difference. They were fluffier, so I was like, okay, well, he's definitely got this golden retriever in him, and but he looks completely different. He looks way more like a border collie. So all these years we were just thinking it was that, plus maybe flat coat retriever, which is like, I'm not a breeder, but in layman's terms, to me, it's like the black version of a golden retriever, but more ball obsessed and faster. Those are the key points. So we were thinking those 3 brands, breeds, 3 or 4, right? Lab, because he's just super friendly, super trainable, very smart. Golden, because of what his brothers look like. Otherwise, I would have kicked that breed out as irrelevant. Border Collie, and because of the coloring and because of the herding capabilities, and then this flat coat retriever as another option for why he might be black. And his hair, like I said, is fluffy. It's kind of like the light version of a Bernese Mountain Dog, which is truly my favorite kind of dog. But those dogs don't live long, and I don't think I could put my heart through that. Which is why we went through a rescue and just found this beautiful dog who's a little bit smaller. Better for my husband. It was his first dog, so easier for us to choose for that first experience as well. And then rescues tend to hopefully live longer. That's our vision for our puppy. And so, anyways, long story short, he's an intelligent, adorable nut. First couple minutes, just loses his mind whenever he meets new people. And he's 6 now. So our lab grew out of that when she was like 4, probably. Growing up, I remember her, we would joke that she would just lick strangers to death, and that's how that would scare them away. But our dog will like startle you. So he reminds me a lot of a highly sensitive child who can be high sensation seeking at times, right? Just so full of joy. And we know that the highly sensitive trait is found in over 100 different species. So I'm not going to rule it out that my dog's highly sensitive. Sensory processing sensitivity is a personality trait, guys. It's a temperament trait, right? And so for 6 years, I have thought that my dog is these breeds, right? And today I found out a different story, and I want to kind of speak about this. There's some different flavor to what happened. Now, as a parent, when you're thinking your kiddo is run-of-the-mill, 80% of the population, not highly sensitive, didn't even learn about the trait to begin with, right? And you stumble across many times, we're the first ones that you hear from. But you might have read a blog or learned about the trait from a neighbor or what have you, heard from the teacher or pediatrician, whatever, stumbled into Elaine Aron's book, The Sensitive Child, 'cause she coined the term. Then that whole experience of finally feeling like you understand your kid can be one way to experience the unlocking of the highly sensitive personality trait information in your brain, learning all about it, understanding that highly sensitive people experience the world differently. They make up 15 to 20% of the population. That in and of itself, perceiving your child to be a minority can be worrisome for you if you don't understand that a minority in a personality trait is not a bad thing. That your child's not run-of-the-mill, regular or average is a great thing, but only if you know how to manage not only your disappointment, but how to lead your child with this temperament type, right? So when you might have opened up this information, I'm going to use my example. I got an email. The lab results are due, like here, the DNA results are here, right? I opened up the email. I finally found the time to log in because I could only access it through my computer, which means I didn't get to it quickly. So today's the day. And so when you get that information and you start to learn more about what your child fits in and where your child might be getting some of these personality traits, and it's not just because you're stubborn or your spouse is stubborn, or it's not just because your child has been raised for the last 1.5 years, 2 years in a pandemic, right? It's not just because they finally worked with a teacher who is more rigorous, right? For those of you who are parenting kids just hopping into 3rd grade, typically we get that response from parents thinking that it's just because school got harder, that their child has shifted how they show up in the world, how they relate to challenges, how they communicate their needs. So if the environment, though, it might have changed and isn't the reason why your child is dealing with big emotions and has been for their entire life, and now it's highlighted, that can be a mind-blowing experience, right? And so one of my team members today Devin, who's now a former client, is now a breakthrough coach on our team. She helps. Had the coaching experience and decided to work with us. Had the coaching experience prior to being a client. She was describing the experience that she had, diving into our into what we have to say, into all of our videos, and getting into the Facebook group, listening, reading our emails, etc. Right, and so all of the messaging that we share and what our mission is here. Devin was sharing that for her, it was a mind-blowing experience because finally the challenges that they were dealing with their child was unlocked. Somebody was able to add it all up and put it all together, right? And so when you as a parent are finally coming into this awareness that your child is now highly sensitive, and you might be experiencing all of the feelings around that. I want to talk about that in relationship to how I feel about learning about my dog, right? My dog's personality, right? So my kid, she's also highly sensitive. I'm certain about that. But I knew about this personality trait before I discovered my kid was highly sensitive because this is my professional expertise. And so as I raised my child, my husband and I too, right? But as we were raising our daughter, we did not. She doesn't experience daily meltdowns. She does experience big emotions and is highly compassionate and empathetic and very bright as well. And so for us, sensory sensitivities weren't such a big challenge for our daughter, and so it's important for me to not have tunnel vision as a professional and peg my kid to fit into this only one mold that I see all, a lens through all children through the same lens, right? So as I'm raising my child, the jury was out for a little while. About 18 months is when I was able to observe that it was highly likely she was highly sensitive and fits somewhere on that personality spectrum. Again, this is not a diagnosis. This is a personality trait, a temperament type. And so what that means is that there's different qualities for every human who's highly sensitive. And my sister's highly sensitive, so it's not unheard of that the trait, given the fact that it's genetic, would be relevant for my kiddo. And one could argue that there are highly sensitive people on my husband's side of the family. And so with that being said, for where she's at and how she communicates with the world, given her communication style and the fact that I know what I know in terms of managing big emotions and helping kids move through them systematically in parenting, we didn't see the big emotional challenge for our kid because pretty good at what I do. And then it was just a matter of helping my husband stay consistent because he's not an expert in parenting. And so for that reason, my personal experience parenting is different than what you might be experiencing if you're stuck in the meltdown cycle. But so that's why we're using my example of my puppy, my doggy Porter. In this experience, because I didn't have an aha moment for my kid. I just had we'll see how this is going, and I know what I do works for sensitive kids and non-sensitive kids alike, so we're good either way. So for Porter on the other side, we knew he was he's highly intelligent, and we knew we needed to keep him busy. We knew we needed to train him well, and to do that really effectively. But I had this framework that he was a border collie for my entire puppy parenthood. It was clear to me. I was certain about it, right? And so, guys, drum roll, right? Spoiler alert, you probably put two and two together. Guess what? He might not be a border collie. We got some pretty good results. So he's 25% Labrador Retriever, 12.5% English Cocker Spaniel, which was not on my radar, but when I saw that, it explains the adorable, fluffy, curly, semi-curly, wavy hair. It's soft, right, like Cocker Spaniel's hair is. But he's a bigger dude, so I was like, I was surprised by that. He's 50 pounds, about the size of a smaller statured border collie, or border collie that doesn't have like some of those border collies will have the adorable corgi type stumpy legs, but mine looks more like lab stature, but short enough to be 50 pounds and not look like a greyhound. And so, and then 12 and a half golden retriever. So equal English Cocker Spaniel and golden retriever. And then 12 and a half equal Parson Russell Terrier. And then 37.5% mixed breed, which herding, sporting, and Asian breeds all kind of jumbled into that 40%, like less than 40%. So it's not a small number, that 40%, where Border Collie could fit in. But my mind was blown, guys. My puppy is potentially, like, where he gets all his snuggly and happy and affection is lab and Cocker Spaniel, plus the golden retriever, right? But then the ball hoggedness is in this Parson Russell Terrier, which is similar to Jack Russell, but I just learned. Here it is, guys. May be difficult to disengage from an activity or behavior, bark or chase. And that's where the ball thing. Parson Russell Terriers enjoy tennis ball retrieving, agility. My dog we call him a kangaroo. So our daughter, she just turned 5, so for her 5th birthday, we got her this loft bed. It's like not as high as a bunk bed height for, a teenage loft bed, but it's like the kid size loft bed. And there's like a tent underneath it, so she can play under there, aka hide her toys from my sight, so I don't have to look at the floor. And so our dog, when she got up there for the first time, he literally launched himself onto it. Like no need, like no. There was no running start. He literally bounded onto like a medium-sized loft bed. It's got to be, she has to crouch to get in there, but it's got to be at least 4 feet off the ground. It was incredible. So we've always joked that he's a kangaroo dog. So I thought it was the Border Collie. And, so there's lots of reasons to expect him to be a Border Collie. So I had disappointment, guys. I was disappointed that he wasn't what I thought he was. That my picture frame of how I viewed my doggy was inaccurate. And how many of you, parents of sensitive kids, have been down this rabbit hole of thinking that your kid just has ADHD because they're inattentive at school, right? Just considering your kid to be flighty when in reality they're sensitive and they're taking all of the world into play, right? Sensory processing sensitivity. They're just trying to figure out how to categorize it. Your child can report to you what's going on because they're taking it all in, but they're overwhelmed by it, right? Rather than inattentive, okay? Which can lead to a different label. We think about supporting highly sensitive kids and not mislabeling them with a mental health diagnosis. For me, mislabel wasn't just, you could label your kid with a flighty temperament type, right? And not even go down the rabbit hole of seeing if your kid fits ADHD, inattentive type. But for you, when you're coming across this information, or for your spouse, or your co-parent, and they're coming across this information, you might have felt relief, but your spouse or co-parent might have felt confusion, denial, right? Discounting. And that's where I felt initially going through this whole thing. And so I wanted to just kind of do a play on how this experience is human, right? But it doesn't mean that you get to live in a delusional world, right? So when I scroll down to this 37.5%, the herding, they like ordered it, herding, my dog, out of the herding categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 4 likelihoods, and they ordered it at 4. His first herding category is German Shepherd, which, like, Aside from his bark, because he tells people it's his house. He definitely does that, but he does that with like the waggiest, wiggliest, like his whole body wiggles. Like there is no protective bone in his body. And so it just like the Border Collie was number 4. German Shepherd, Great Pyrenees, which is hilarious because he's not big, but he's fluffy, and I love the fluff. So that's awesome. And then Australian cattle, and those doggies can be super nervous, and herding like nuts, and need a lot of. I mean, they have a ton of energy as well. And so, can you tell I did the training for my dog, and I like was best buds with the trainer. Learned a lot about different breeds. And so, complete and utter surprise to me that of the 40%, the fourth possible option in that, what is that? So 40%, there's 3 kinds of dogs, herding, sporting, and Asian, that my dog makes up the last 40% of my dog. And so 30% of 40, what's that? 40 divided by 3. 13%. Okay, so of the 13%, 13% herding, and then he's got a 3% chance of being a Border Collie, because of that 33.33 repeating percent chance of being a Border Collie, because in order he's much more likely to be German Shepherd, right? It's a good thing I'm recording this on my computer. I can do the math with a calculator. What? To go from like, no, he's definitely Lab and Border Collie, like probably like 50-50, 60-40, like, maybe definitely max in all of those numbers. And then to go to the awareness that there's a 3% potential that my dog is Border Collie. And again, I'm not a statistician, so I could be messing up those numbers, but that's where I'm going, right? I do like to look at the data. I do like to run the numbers, and pay attention to that when I'm considering odds of getting the results I want. And here I have it, that my dog is, I have a 3% chance of likelihood that my dog is actually the kind of dog that I thought he was. And so I felt all of these emotions. I felt this emotion of, nah, can't be true, right? What I spend this money on. He's 6, so like obviously it was like a pretty low priority for us to do that. But here's the deal. There was a reason for it. He ended up with one of those fatty polyps in his armpit. It's like the size of like a marble. It was small, but I took him to the vet and asked, what is this? Please test it. Do the whole shebang. He's my first child. Take care of it, right? Let me make sure. I don't want the guess of what it probably is. So she performed the biopsy and said it's just a fatty polyp. It's likely because he's Lab. He's probably got some Lab in him. And those dogs, as long as it doesn't impact the mobility, grow to the point where it impacts the mobility, we just kind of let it be. I remember having the yellow Lab. She was a bred dog. My parents got her from a breeder, and growing up, she would have, different weird things on her skin. We would just check it out with the vet, right? So that's not out of its wheelhouse for me, but I wanted to make sure. But that was the reason, right? There was a problem, and I went to go figure it out. So then I said, okay, well, let's do the DNA test just to make sure there's no other breeds where there's weird random predispositions to be noticing for this doggy. He came out clear, and I want to speak about that for highly sensitive kids too, right? Because when you know how to capitalize on your child's big emotions in a way that leads them, capitalize, not manipulate. Let's make sure you understand that. When your child is experiencing big emotions and you understand how to break down the intensity in a way that helps your child dissipate that intensity, disintegrate that intensity, ride the emotional roller coaster rather than feel like they're hanging from the rafters of it. Okay, they're buckled in, they know it. Then what you get to do is you actually get to help your child, here's my capitalized word, control that roller coaster, change the speed, change the height of the peaks and valleys, okay, level them out, and then get back on into the driver's seat of that roller coaster if they perhaps take a chance at taking a detour. That's what I mean. When you know how to manage your child's big emotions from the framework, the picture frame of how you look at your kid, then you get to parent them in a way that helps them feel in control of their big emotions, in control of noticing how their sensitivities impact their ability to manage their big emotions, and then advocate for their needs so that they feel powerful and empowered in any environment. And then, as a result, they feel more flexible, they feel more capable, and they stop looking at challenges as problems, and they start looking at challenges as things that they can handle and opportunities for growth. And when you think about what is important in that, first and foremost, is your ability to notice, okay, and decide. My kid's highly sensitive. There's a set way to solve this problem. It works repeatedly for hundreds of people. So therefore, let me take a look at what works. Let me stop thinking my dog is a border collie, and let me start raising my dog, training my dog. I forgot about it. I had to go look it up. Like a Parson Russell Terrier, right? Let's look at that breed and figure out how was it bred? What were people bred? What did people breed this dog for? And then how to support him so that he can stay being that nut for the first couple of minutes, right? Of saying hi to everybody. But so we're not necessarily talking about training, beating, dog treating the intensity out of him, but keeping him engaged, keeping him focused, and keeping him feeling like he could be the awesome best friend dog that he is. And so when we think about being able to do that for your kid, right? Not that your kid's your dog and it's just there to perform for you and keep you company, right? But what we're talking about is being able to support your child into being their own human who knows who they are and who knows what they're capable of, and that capacity is not from the framework of a weakness. It is not from the perspective of being a minority and that that's a bad thing, right? But that that's a unique thing, and that it helps your child understand them and not feel like they are alone in this world. You need to be able to notice that you have the information you need, and now you get to act on it. That's your opportunity, okay? As a parent, your child will not break out of the meltdown cycle if you are not able to own the understanding of this realization. And that realization can be relevant in terms of aligning with everything that we teach and talk about, right? Because if the pictures that I paint on these shows here, feel like I've got a window into your soul or a camera in your house, there's a reason for that, right? We've helped hundreds of families break out of this pattern in the coaching company, and we help hundreds of families break out of this pattern every year in the group private practice that I run. This is my specialty. It's something that the whole team has expertise on, and they've been trained by yours truly. And so if that's the case, then you need to understand that if people are speaking your language, then maybe you should listen to it and learn what language we're speaking, right? All right, so I'm gonna go tell my family the good news. Talk to my husband, he's traveling today, but call him and say, guess what? Now we know what dog our dog is. Because I've already moved through the weird sadness about it. I've already decided how we're going to tell my kid so she can move through her own emotions about it. Because she's been telling everybody that Porter is a border collie. A porter collie is what she calls it, being 5. And so we're going to have to help her, support her in changing that story. It's not a border collie anymore. Or, the likelihood of that is just simply very rare, unlikely, right? And so we'll get to share that news, and she'll be able to handle it, and we'll be able to help our pupper doggo. And I support you guys in noticing that if this is something that you think you need help with, or that your spouse or co-parent needs help with, then head on over to our website, meganthompsoncoaching.com. I'll put the link on this episode for you to click, because it's "Is my child highly sensitive?" There's hyphens in between every word, so I'm not going to spell it out for you. But we'll make sure that it's in the show notes. It's in the link of this post, wherever you find us here today. And so that you have that, so you understand where your child's personality trait fits. So you can stop labeling your kid with something that's ineffective, or for the most part, could be damaging if it's not the right fit, right? And so I wish you well in learning all about that and understanding that. And if you're stuck in the meltdown cycle and you need help getting out of it, and you already know your kid's highly sensitive, then go over to our masterclass. Go to meganthompsoncoaching.com/5steps, or 5steps_teen if you're parenting a high schooler, U.S. high school, and age 14 to 18 in high school. We work with that age range for a teen program with teens and parents together. Parents of kids, your best effort is met in terms of shifting out of this dynamic, is met where you are the conduit for your child's change. And so we work directly just with parents, because that's what works. And that's what's most effective in breaking out of this cycle. So there we go. Okay. Go to go check out those free trainings, learn more about what actually works to break out of this challenge, and make a decision. Make a decision that your kid fits the personality trait, and then dive into what is relevant for that. Okay. I wish you well. Have a great day, and hope you had fun learning all about my puppy. Bye.